Steel caught the light first. The blade emerged from behind the concrete pillar, 6 inches of kitchen steel reflecting fluorescent tubes overhead. Bruce Lee stopped 3 paces from his parked car. His gym bag hung loose in his left hand. The man holding the knife stepped forward. Carlos, 22, maybe 23, thin shoulders beneath a denim jacket, his knuckles wrapped white around the handle, but the tip wavered. Just slightly, Bruce's breathing stayed even. He tracked the blade's angle, calculated the distance between them. 8 feet, close enough to strike, far enough to think. Footsteps echoed from the right. A second man materialized from behind another pillar. Heavier build, metal pipe gripped in both hands. Ray tapped it against his palm, a slow, deliberate rhythm that bounced off concrete walls and ceiling. The parking garage swallowed sound and magnified it. No other cars on this level. No voices, no sirens, just the electric hum of dying lights and the stink of oil stains baked into the floor. Carlos shifted his weight forward. The knife steadied. "Wallet," he said, his voice cracked slightly on the second syllable. "Watch, keys, now." Ray circled right, pipe raised to shoulder height. The metal gleamed under cold light. 2 weapons, 2 men, 1 exit blocked. But what happened next would defy every expectation they carried. "Wallet, watch, keys." Carlos jabbed the knife forward. Now, the blade caught fluorescent light, reflected it back in shivering arcs. His wrist trembled, not much, but enough. Ray circled right, boots scraping concrete, metal pipe tapping against his palm in steady rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. The sound echoed through concrete pillars, a metronome counting down to violence. Bruce's chest rose and fell, even. Controlled, his eyes tracked distances without moving his head. Carlos stood 7 feet away. Ray 9, the knife 4 inches of serrated steel, the pipe 3 feet of galvanized iron. Exit behind Carlos, blocked his car. 30 feet left, Ray's footwork, sloppy, weight too far forward. Bruce's gym bag hung loose in his left hand. His right stayed open, relaxed at his side. The calculations ran clean and cold. Wrist trap, angular deflection, rotational disarm. 2 seconds for Carlos. Ray's pipe swing would follow, predictable arc, high right, duck, sweep, controlled hyperextension. 3 seconds total. Both men disarmed before either registered movement, but Bruce's lips parted instead. His voice emerged quiet, almost gentle, cutting through the garage's hollow acoustics. What he said next would decide whether these 2 young men walked away or were carried. Bruce raised his palms to shoulder height, slowly, no sudden movements. "All right," he said, "you can have it." His voice carried the same even timbre as ordering tea. No tremor, no pleading. Carlos blinked, the knife still extended, but his arm tension easing by fractions. "Just let me take my ID out of the wallet first," Bruce continued. "Replacing driver's licenses takes weeks." The request landed soft, reasonable. A man accepting defeat with dignity. Carlos glanced at Ray. Ray's grin widened, showing crooked teeth. The pipe lowered an inch, then 2. Victory tasted easy tonight. "Yeah, okay," Carlos said, but slow. Real slow. Bruce's gym bag hung loose in his left hand, canvas heavy with training equipment. His fingers adjusted grip, barely perceptible, finding the fabric straps with deliberate placement. The fluorescent lights overhead hummed their electric mantra, casting harsh shadows across oil-stained concrete. Carlos's shoulders dropped. The knife angle shifted from offensive to guarding. He believed he controlled this moment. Ray leaned his weight onto his back foot, pipe resting against his thigh. Few could recognize the language Bruce's body now spoke, the coiling, the breath dropping into his lower abdomen, the microsecond before water becomes steam. But what happened in the next heartbeat would shatter Carlos's certainty like glass against stone. The gym bag flew. Carlos's eyes tracked the canvas blur. His knife hand jerked instinctively toward his face. A flinch, half a second stolen. Bruce covered the distance in one stride. His right hand clamped around Carlos's wrist like a steel shackle, thumb digging into pressure points between bone and tendon. His left hand seized Carlos's elbow. The angle shifted, 30 degrees, 40, a wet grinding sound. Cartilage compressed against socket joint. Carlos's fingers splayed open involuntarily, nerves screaming surrender before his brain could process pain. The knife tumbled through stale garage air, thick with motor oil and concrete dust. It struck the ground with a sharp metallic ring, skittering across oil-stained concrete until it stopped 3 feet away. Useless, 2 seconds, beginning to end. Carlos's knees buckled. His mouth opened, a choked gasp that echoed off concrete pillars. His free hand clawed at Bruce's iron grip, finding no give, no mercy in the mechanics of the hold. Few could imagine the precision required. Not strength alone, but geometry, leverage, the exact pressure point where resistance collapsed. Bruce's breathing remained even. Behind him, metal scraped concrete, a different sound, heavier. Ray's boots scuffed forward. The pipe whistled as it rose, catching fluorescent light, arcing toward Bruce's unprotected skull. The pipe carved through stale air, a killing arc aimed at Bruce's temple. Bruce dropped, his knees bent, spine coiled, and the metal sang past where his skull had been. The pipe struck concrete pillar instead. Sparks erupted, orange and white against gray. The impact rang through the garage like a bell, reverberating off oil-stained floors. Ray stumbled forward. His momentum carried him past the mark, boots scraping, balance gone. Bruce rose. One stride closed the gap. His front kick snapped forward, controlled, measured, heel connecting with Ray's kneecap. Not the shattering force Bruce possessed, but surgical precision. The joint hyperextended with a wet pop. Ray's leg buckled. He collapsed sideways, mouth open in a silent scream. The pipe clattered from Ray's grip. It rolled across concrete, metal scraping stone, until it stopped against Carlos's fallen knife near the trash-stained wall. Both weapons lay scattered, both men lay groaning. Bruce stood between them, chest rising and falling in even rhythm. Carlos clutched his ruined wrist. Ray cradled his destroyed knee. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, indifferent. 2 strikes, that's all it would take to end them permanently. Bruce's hand curled into a fist, then opened. And in that breath of hesitation, something far more dangerous than violence began to take shape. Silence dropped over the parking garage like a curtain. Bruce stood between the 2 men and the scattered weapons. His chest rose and fell, measured breaths that slowed with each exhale. The thunder of combat faded, his heartbeat steadied. Carlos clutched his wrist, face twisted, teeth clenched against the pain. Ray curled on his side, both hands wrapped around his knee, whimpering into the concrete. The knife lay 3 feet away. The pipe rested near a pillar. Bruce looked down at them. 2 strikes, that was all it would take. 1 to the temple, 1 to the throat, clinical, final. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, indifferent witnesses. His right foot shifted forward, then hovered. The choice hung there in the stale garage air, tangible as the oil stains beneath his shoes. He could feel the trajectory mapped in his muscles, the angle, the force, the aftermath. Few would blame him. Self-defense, justice. His foot lowered, slowly. Back to the ground, the tension drained from his shoulders, his fists unclenched, fingers spreading wide. He exhaled through his nose, a long, controlled release that carried something more than oxygen. What he did next would define more than this night. Bruce moved toward the knife first. It lay on oil-stained concrete, blade catching fluorescent light. He bent, fingers closing around the handle, still warm from Carlos's grip. The pipe rested 3 feet away. Metal scraped concrete as he lifted it. Carlos watched through pain-squeezed eyes. Ray pressed his back against the pillar, cradling his hyperextended knee. Bruce crossed to the trash bin near the stairwell. He dropped the knife inside. Metal clanged against metal, sharp, final. The pipe followed. Another clang echoed through the garage, then faded into stillness. He turned back to them. "You picked the wrong person tonight." His voice carried no anger, only the weight of absolute certainty. "But I will not call the police." Carlos blinked. Ray's breathing hitched. "You are young," Bruce continued, each word measured and clear. Different paths remain open to you. The one you walk tonight leads only to prison. Or worse, the fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Somewhere distant, a car door slammed. Remember this moment, Bruce said, not because I beat you, because I chose not to finish what you started. He walked toward his car. His footsteps echoed, the engine turned over. Few could understand what those two men felt, watching taillights disappear into the Los Angeles darkness, whether shame would fester into rage, or whether a seed had been planted that might someday grow into something entirely unexpected. Carlos's voice cracked through the silence. Who are you? Bruce turned, his shadow stretching across oil-stained concrete. Someone who could have destroyed you both. He paused, letting the weight settle. But chose mercy instead. Ray clutched his hyperextended knee, breathing hard through clenched teeth. Carlos still cradled his wrist, eyes locked on the man who'd moved like lightning yet stood there calm as still water. Remember this moment, Bruce said. His tone carried no triumph, no anger, only certainty. Not the pain, the choice. He stepped toward his car. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows that made the garage feel colder than it was. Carlos pressed his good hand against the concrete pillar, pulling himself upright. The chill of stone bit through his palm. Bruce's engine rumbled to life. Tail lights flared red in the darkness. Carlos watched the car roll toward the exit ramp, those crimson lights fading into Los Angeles night. His wrist throbbed, his pride ached worse. Ray groaned beside him, cursing under his breath. The lesson hung in that empty garage like smoke, invisible but impossible to ignore. Whether it would ignite into something transformative or burn away into nothing, only time would reveal which seed Bruce had truly planted. 3 years changed a man's hands. Carlos stood outside the martial arts school, staring at his calloused palms. Construction site dirt under his nails instead of knife grease. The scent of polished wood and sweat drifted through the open door. Inside, students drilled kicks against heavy bags, rhythmic thumps echoing off mirrored walls. He remembered concrete, oil stains, a blade clattering from his broken grip. Carlos stepped through the doorway. Bruce looked up from correcting a student's stance. Recognition flickered across his face, subtle as a breath, no alarm, no tension. He dismissed the class with a nod and walked forward, waiting. You probably don't, I remember, Carlos swallowed. I came to thank you. That night in the garage, you could have destroyed us. Ray still limps. He exhaled slowly. But you didn't. You left us a choice. I quit robbing 2 weeks later. Found work on a crew, rebuilt everything. Bruce's gaze held steady. You rebuilt yourself. I only gave you a moment. You chose what to do with it. The words settled between them like dust after a storm. Carlos hesitated, then pushed forward. I want to train here with you. Silence stretched thin. Bruce studied him, measuring something invisible, something 3 years in the making. But whether mercy extended to mentorship, or whether some lines once crossed could never fully dissolve, that answer hung suspended, unspoken, in the air between master and stranger. Bruce nodded once. The canvas mats absorbed years of Carlos's sweat. His knuckles split and healed. Bruce taught him precision, not fury, every strike measured, every breath intentional. Carlos scrubbed floors before dawn, trained until midnight. The parking garage knife hand learned restraint instead of desperation. Years folded into muscle memory. Carlos opened a small gymnasium in East Los Angeles. A trisque youth filled the space, their voices echoing off cinder block walls. They carried the same hunger he once had, the same edge. He rolled up his sleeve during his first class. The scar on his wrist caught fluorescent light. A man could have broken me, Carlos said, shattered every bone. Instead, he chose mercy. 2 seconds changed everything. The kids leaned forward, real strength. Carlos demonstrated a wrist lock, smooth and controlled. It's knowing when not to strike. It's choosing the path that builds instead of destroys. Few could understand how one parking garage encounter could reshape decades, but Bruce's lesson multiplied through Carlos, through these young hands learning discipline over violence. The ripple spread beyond what either man could measure. mercy compounding across generations, one controlled choice echoing through countless lives that would never know the name Bruce Lee, but would inherit his restraint.